when we were doing ceremonies, there was always the statement, when you leave from here, don't say anything. Nothing. So in my mind, I would say, why? Why? But I wouldn't voice it. But later, I learned the reason why. But it was still, it was good. Maybe that's the way Spirit moves. But the government made it so that it was against the law for any Indian to pray in their language and do ceremonies, and the penalties were up to 30 years in prison. And they created a prison. It was more like an insane asylum for the Indians in the United States, those that couldn't conform to the social ways of living, and those that couldn't conform to the religious ways of living. They put them in there and called them insane. And I had two grandfathers. One that died in an insane asylum because he was a medicine man. And he talked to nature, he talked to the birds and the animals. He talked to this wind and these clouds. And the deer, you could say. I think my mother told me that he was worked with the deer people, and they gave me a lot of stories about that and about his life. My other grandfather was sent in there, and he was more of a leader in the tribe, and he didn't like what was going on with how the people were being treated. So that's where they sent him. But after some research with finances, problems with this insane asylum, they went to investigate the conditions, and they found out that none of the people there were insane. And so my grandfather was released, and he went back to the tribe. And I just learned this, that he died on a trip. He was delegated to go to Washington for something, and he died during that trip in D.C. And they sent his body back without a brain. And we found out that there's over 16,000 Indian people that died over in the area of D.C., and their bodies were shipped out without brains. So we have somebody that's investigating and digging that stuff up right now at this time, and looking for the records, the medical records, and the cause of death on a lot of these Indian leaders. So that was the penalties to praying to God. So we didn't understand that at the time. Nobody told us anything. So we kept a lot of this information to ourselves. Now, Jimmy Carter passed this law in 1978 called the Freedom of Religion Act, which allows Indian people to pray to God and do ceremony. So it's very ironic that the United States, or this was built around the freedom of religion for a lot of people that were being very much abused over in England and all them other countries. So they came over here so they could practice their own belief systems. So we didn't say anything. Then after the Spirit gave us this information, then they told us to take it out. The way of the symbols, the way of the six-pointed star. And when we released them to the public, it drew in so many people from different walks of life, and it didn't matter. It was FBI, CIA, UN, NATO, a lot of the government, so-called government agencies, and light workers, New Agers, medicine people, ufologists, and all kinds of authors. And then we had 5 days of conference like this, where everybody shared the ways of the stars, because that's what it was about at that time. Every aspect, whether they talked about ETs, aliens, extraterrestrials, they talked about all the stuff from history, from the military's point of view, from the government's point of view, and from the spiritual point of view, so we all got together in that way.
For more information on the next Star Knowledge Conference, go to starknowledgeconference.com.